Hey everyone, I'm Braden here from GekkoState with Adrian Barber, top 8 duelist for Vanguard Standard. He's playing Shaman King Yoh. Do you have anything you'd like to say, Adrian?
This deck's amazing. I am very much looking forward to show you guys my deck profile. I have had a couple people from different groups basically wanting to know what it is. And I'm just going to kind of go over some of my choices, analysis, and then don't forget that we will also have the deck log link in the description below. So in case you don't want to have to keep pausing the video, you can just basically view the deck log right there. But if you want to get more of an analysis and in-depth explanation to some of my choices, you can watch the video and then hopefully you enjoy it.
All right, guys, let's get right into it. Take us away.
So to start us off, we're just going to go with the ride line. Nothing too special. Since you're playing a Yoh deck, you need to play the Yoh grades. They're all good in their own way. Everyone knows why you have to play them. I'm not going to go into any real explanation. It's just play these if you want to play a Yoh deck.
Also, full disclaimer, he has one proxy in the deck just because we were just borrowing a high-end staple from someone else. So pardon the proxy, it'll just be the cards on the front.
Yeah, so on some of them, there will be high-end cards in the deck log. I did swap them out. I'm more of a base rarity guy, but my friend wanted to use some high rarity cards in the deck, so just to flex a little bit. All right, so I'm going to start going over with the triggers now.
Yep.
And then we'll move our way up in the grids. So going over the triggers, it's a pretty standard trigger lineup. You're going to be going 3 draw, 8 criticals. Well, that's not critical. 4 heals, and the 8 criticals. I just went with the effect ones because unfortunately we do not have an 8th Amidamaru trigger. And I just went with making going to soul because this deck generates a lot of soul, so you can just have that extra soul. And that 2k comes very occasionally, but not a whole lot. Then I have the over trigger. So going into explanation on this, honestly, when I was playing, this is a very nice over trigger when you reveal it. I never saw it once, actually. So honestly, I've just playing all these rounds of Swiss, I actually have more value the 50k shield. And even in testing, I was kind of feeling that. Just the effect is very strong, don't get me wrong, on how you can just basically get that damage even before the attack goes through for calculation. And then you can just win the game. But honestly, it just kind of just feels like a way more win-more scenario when it goes off. And the board nuke effect hasn't been very good for me. Most times, a lot of people in this format are trying to play around the fact that graffiti is in it, and that if you commit a lot of cards, they're just going to keep nuking your board, and you won't be able to do a whole lot of things, right? This really only has value if you're doing like retiring 3, but a lot of players know how to adjust against it. So honestly, from a lot of testing, my one change I would make probably would be just playing the one that gives 2 cards 100 million, the Olbaria, just because I value the 50k shield and just the fact a bit more than when I was playing a lot of games. So this is an option that you do have. Just keep in mind that is one of my thoughts on that.
All right, Adrian, well, a question for you. Do you mind explaining why you don't play the effect triggers in your deck? Aside from the crits, naturally. Like, what is so special about playing the Amidamaru's that changes how the deck's built?
So the reason you have to is because of how the mechanic works for the deck. Oversoul requires you to have the shaman inside the spirit of the said like shaman user. So for this, you need a Amidamaru. Unfortunately, though, we didn't get enough triggers, as I said previously, that are all Amidamaru. So I was considering the fact that I could play the effect ones that give me more shield value, but unfortunately that would just lower the consistency I have overall and being with the Oversoul. And surprisingly, when you have even this many triggers, I'm still in scenarios where I actually may not be able to Oversoul. That's why you need to play this, especially with the draws. They come in clutch because you can try to draw like that Amidamaru or using this trigger. And then, not to mention, it does kind of feel bad when you do have to Oversoul triggers. That's kind of why I went with that basis of just playing all Amidamaru focused triggers.
So basically, you're also arguing the idea that like maybe you can play more utility cards in your main deck rather than having to play Amidamaru's in the main deck and kind of clog it up on Amidamaru's that might not be naturally the better card. And this way, you only have to use a trigger to Oversoul rather than use like an actual key piece.
Not mention, you don't feel as bad when you use draw triggers because they're only the 5k equivalent of shield, so it's not as bad compared to having to use a 15k. And that's basically my trigger lineup.
All right, sweet. We can move on to the rest of the deck.
Alrighty, so going on to my grade 1 lineup. I decided to play 3 Amidamaru's. Because as an important note, some people may not know, but spirits only have 0 base crit, so they actually hit for nothing to start. Amidamaru does have the bonus though, when you do you are in Oversoul state, he will gain his critical back being 1 damage. But most times out of 10, you actually rather have him as a booster but in some really niche scenarios, you can get the bonus of him being 13k solo with that 1 damage in case you're in a very tight spot on resources. Not to mention, you're already thinning one out for your start of your ride decks, basically. And on to my next grade, I'm going to be going into 3 Jaguar mics. I'm not going to go into much explanation on him yet until I get to Chocolove because they kind of are a pair unit, and then the real value comes together. So I'll go over that in a bit, but I played 3 of him.
Sounds good.
Next is my PGs. Unfortunately, I was only able to secure like 3 of the art initially, as you would see in my deck log. So as I said before, as we started, that I only have the 3, and I had the 4, but I did not have the base rarity anymore. So that was my choice basically, was just the 4 PGs. If I had the option, I would have had the 4 of the same art. Surprisingly, I saw this actually the most.
Standard effect PGs, correct?
Yep, standard effect ones. The ones where if you have 1 card in hand or less, you can just not to discard anything for the cost.
Fair enough, fair enough. On to grade 2.
On to the grade 2s, we have the very, very good card of the deck.
Best card, OP.
Anna, she is literally very insane. This is why the Yoh deck stands out a bit more than from all the other Shaman King decks. She is able to basically, if your Yoh Vanguard does not hit and she's behind him, you can just counterblast 1 to rest it, to restand your Yoh Vanguard with a drive -1. This can be very strong, especially in scenarios where your Yoh has a critical on him and your opponent at lethal at 4 damage. You can basically just go for lethal for 2 swings, and if you hit another crit, you just give it to another side. This card is very, very strong. You always want to see it. I played 4 of this, and I had games where I didn't see it immediately, and I was just feeling bad.
Seems legit.
Next, I'm gonna go with my tech card, the card that I was playing and testing a lot. The 2, and I quote, "knock you straight down to hell." This card has actually come up a lot of times, especially in my matchups at BCS Toronto. Basically, I was able to just really have that early game aggro, and if they tried to control my board, if I had the Anna on as one of my attacking rears, I was able to just play this, just being able to stop their retaliation on the crackback, and then just have a way to really force my opponent into a very unproductive turn. Overall though, I would say though, if you are in a locals though that is very Gravidia oriented, I wouldn't play this honestly. I'd rather just play maybe another Faust, but I'll get into that later. Important interaction though is if you have no board, because like Gravidia did nuke it though, if you have the Anna on, you can place the Anna on the Guardian Circle to actually activate the order, because you do now control an Anna in a very worst case scenario. This did come up like 1 time as an interaction, but that basically goes over this. This is my tech choice, was this order. Anyways, on to my other grade 2s. Next I have the 2 Fausts. As I explained before though, I definitely would have wanted to play more of this, just because this is a very card efficient, especially when you have like a hand where you have a lot of shamans and you have to choose between them. This just lets you get back that shaman you want, especially like the Anna. Say you don't want to have the Anna, like too many, you're clogging on Annas, you can just get that back, and it's very like efficient to get like a body back for a body. Very good card. Definitely would want to play a bit more overall after finishing my games. Next will be one of the real MVPs of the deck. This card is insane, so I'm going to bring out his pair spirit, Jaguar Mike. So basically what he does is he's just a simple on place. First part of the effect is your opponent will not be able to intercept for this turn, and then you can Soul Blast 2 if you want, to search your deck for the pair card, Jaguar Mike, and call in the same column as him. And then basically you just have a really nice number, because Jaguar Mike's effect is, for everything that he boosts, he's 10k, but if he's boosting Chocolove, he is a 23k column, and your opponent has to reveal 3 cards of their choice from their hand. If you're really good at keeping account of their hand and knowing what they're revealing, and if they're not really thinking about what they're revealing, you can get a lot of information there where you can just kind of dissect their hand in advance and then really force them into a position where you're able to start knowing like their 6 or 7 card hand, almost all of them, and then you start having like a good idea of how to approach the turn to try to end the game. Definitely a very strong combination. I feel like every single strong deck should really just play this if you have the soul, because very, very strong. Next will be going at our own pace, Yoh Asakura. This card is very good. if you're against a matchup that basically cannot retire your stuff, like Lyrical for example, they can never attack into this because you have very good soul build, and basically you can just always make sure that they had to go face, and if they go face though and you're in high damage and they try to pressure you, he just becomes a bigger threat as the game looms on. That just hits for big numbers, and he's very nice, especially when you can use Faust to revive him. Very strong card. I wouldn't play 4 though, just because with Choco Love on your turn 2 play will make your soul 0, so you can't use this like secondary effect to really protect him. But going forward after that, your soul is very good, so you can just always make sure to have him. Next, I'm gonna go over my grade 3s. My grade 3s were the 3 Spirit of Sword and the 2 Structure Deck one, the Fighting Together Yoh Asakura. So when it comes to why people ask, like, why don't you max this? Unfortunately, his effect is locked to the fact that you have to ride upon the grade 3 one, and then the fact you have to wait turn 4 for that full capability most times. He's very bricky in those kind of scenarios. That's why I think 3 is the really nice number to play him at. Then I play 2 of the Fighting Together one due to the fact that if you're playing against matchups where you need to grind out against them, he is very nice when you Persona Ride because he produces a draw when you Oversoul, while this one's more of a pressuring one when you Oversoul. However, I would probably go into small changes. I would maybe want to play another one of this one, just because I do really like the draw. Like basically drawing 2 if I Oversoul, and it's just very good for grinding because he gives 15k to the front row, while this one gives the 10k. Plus this is continuous, especially when you have a board full. Generally, this is a combination I was very, very happy with throughout the tournament. Did not have any problems with that. And that is basically all of the cards. So I'm just gonna kind of go over some of my matchups essentially. I was mainly at this tournament, I was going against Zorga, Magnolia, and Nirvana. I didn't actually have the consequence of having to face Gravidia. Gravidia is a very, very tough matchup for this deck. The fact is you basically can't really recuperate your board a lot, and they really punish you for even just trying to play things. That's why I wanted to play more Faust, and why I think the Ana Order would be cut out, just to play things that can make your card economy a bit better against that matchup, so you can grind them out. Because inherently you have to play the Ana behind your Vanguard, and then just all of these kind of cards that they can just always keep removing. I was considering on playing Lyserg. There are some variants that play that. Just keep in mind though, you lose that value that the Choco Love gives you, where you have that insane pressure. But when it comes to all your other matchups though, that isn't Gravidia, I think you have a very solid game play against them. Because you can always just rush them down going first, and going second you just hit those numbers regardless. And you're just very card economic.
And so when you were playing against Magnolia, on a side note, did you ever feel like your hand was like maybe lower pressured, or you were like playing on the back foot, or did you feel like you were always in control?
Honestly, because I was playing the Ana Order, I was able to really just make sure some of their cards were way weaker. It's almost like you're just turning off 2 things with a defensive trigger. Not to mention, you're able to retaliate just like better than they are with your Choco Loves, you're going at your own pace, Yoh Asakura, and then Ana's a very strong card, especially if they get a defensive trigger themselves. Well, Magnolia doesn't have the benefit of when a defensive trigger hits them, they can be in an odd scenario where half their swings are turned off. In most cases, your swings are never turned off by a damage trigger. They're always able to just hit at that right number where you can just keep going in and your opponent has to keep guarding.
So the Ana Order did have its positives though, so
yes.
At least there's something, yeah.
If you're playing at a locals that is very Gravidia oriented, for sure, I would definitely cut it and play Faust to be more like, have more card economy basically in that matchup.
All right, well, if that's all you want to say there, Adrian. That was a great deck profile. Fantastic job going into top 8, and I believe that's a 5th place secured for the team there. Thank you very much for your deck profile. Do you have any last shout outs you want to give?
I'd like to shout out my team, obviously, my family, and then just all of the people who definitely came by for BCS, and then actually took pictures with me. We're very excited to know that I actually played in this area basically. I hope that for my future events that I can play a bit better and not just make the top 8. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.
Have a great one, guys. Take care.